Today, Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy announced that despite having no real evidence, he is opening an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Lucky for us, we don't have to wonder whether or not this is a bad faith effort by Speaker McCarthy. And that is because back in 2015, when he was pitching himself for House leadership, Mr. McCarthy said the quiet part out loud.
The question I think you really want to ask me is, how am I going to be different? What are you going to see differently? I love how you ask my questions, but go ahead. That was one of my questions. Go right ahead. Well, I knew you'd want to ask it. What you're going to see is a conservative speaker that takes a conservative Congress, that puts a strategy to fight and win. And let me give you one example. Everybody thought Hillary Clinton was unbeatable, right? But we put together a Benghazi special committee, a select committee. What are her numbers today? Her numbers are dropping. Why? Because she's untrustable. But no one would have known any of that had happened had we not thought and made that happen.
That's something good. I give you credit for that. I give you credit for sequestration. I'll give you credit where credit is due.
I'll give you credit where credit is due. You got her, Kev. You got her. Now, if you don't remember the Benghazi hearings, then I am very jealous. The Republican-led investigation lasted more than 2 years. It was longer than the investigations into Watergate and 9/11, the JFK assassination, and Pearl Harbor. It was longer than all of those. It cost taxpayers millions of dollars. And a primary focus of all of that was Hillary Clinton, smack dab in the middle of her presidential campaign, a campaign that Speaker McCarthy admitted people thought was unbeatable. Now, when the Benghazi hearings concluded, the final report found no evidence of wrongdoing by former Secretary of State Clinton. But the facts weren't what mattered here. It was about the optics. It was about the messaging. That was the goal. It was about making Secretary Clinton look like a criminal on television for months and months so that she could become, again, in Kevin McCarthy's words, untrustable. Once Republicans had planted that seed, they could litigate and relitigate Clinton's trustability, again, a McCarthyism, over and over again during a campaign, and a campaign that ultimately ended in her defeat. And now, Speaker McCarthy and his party appear to be ready to run the same play against President Biden, just ahead of the 2024 election. Now, remember, there has already been a Republican committee in the House investigating President Biden for months. Earlier this year, that committee released a report that confirmed, much like the Clinton investigation, that there was no evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden. But again, the facts do not seem to be the point here. The point is to create months of conservative TV coverage that makes Biden seem like he is in just as much legal hot water as former President Trump. It is to make Joe Biden untrustable before the 2024 election, with the hope that the race ends the same way that it did for Hillary Clinton. This is what they got. This is, if you can believe it, this is the plan. But given what Donald Trump is facing himself in the lead up to the 2024 election, 4 criminal trials, 91 felony counts, including crimes related to trying to overthrow American democracy and recklessly handling national security secrets, given all of that, can Republicans use an impeachment boondoggle to tarnish Biden or, at the very least, make him look as bad as Donald Trump? Boy, that is an uphill climb. 91 felony counts is not a small number. But remember, the truth is beside the point here. Remember back in 2020, the Republican staff of the Senate Finance and Homeland Security Committees issued this joint report that, among other things, made a very, very specific claim that President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, received a $3.5 million wire transfer from the wife of the former mayor of Moscow. The Washington Post looked into that very specific claim. They even found the wire transfers the committees were referencing. But the Washington Post found no evidence that Hunter Biden was part of those transactions. The claim was not true. But that did not mean that candidate Donald Trump would not use it.
Why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
You've asked your question, let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really? He didn't get
no,
$3.5 million?
Mr. President,
it's
Mr. President, please.
Totally discredited. totally discredited. And by the way...
Well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice
He got $3.5 million.
That is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr. President, it's an open discussion, please.
Now, it's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the Vice President answer. Mlet him answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
Joining me now is David Plouffe, former White House senior advisor under President Obama, and John Heilman, the Circus co-host and creator and an MSNBC national affairs analyst. Thank you guys both for being here. John.